Coming to you from the greatest city in the world, this is the #1 showbiz podcast. It's Talk for Two. Here's your host, Matt Bailey.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Garrio, and you do that with remarkable consistency. If anybody understands how I produce these things, that would be funny. All right, let's start out as usual by thanking Axtel Expressions and the Tangent Bound Network. They are our season sponsors, and I love them from the bottom of my heart. Go check them out, axtel.com, thetangentboundnetwork.com. Tangent Bound has some awesome podcasts, and Axtel has some awesome puppets, magic, and other props. Go check them out. Our guest today is magician Taylor Reed. But first, before we get to all that, I have to remind you that last week we announced Bill Engvall as our Wednesday guest on Week of 100. Now, I know last week I said we'd have another reveal, but I made a decision in this last week. I realized I'm making life so easy on you, and we don't get a chance to be really dramatic on this show like ever. So you have 3/5 of what next week will look like. Stay tuned the rest of this week for big news about next week. All right, let's get to it. Taylor Reed is an accomplished magician, having performed in Branson for over 10 years. This fall, he's making his debut at the Jim Stafford Theater. He sat down with me 2 weeks before the big day, which was last Friday, to talk about his love for magic. We talk about everything from his creative style of illusion show to what's happening for the Branson entertainment scene. Here now to tell us all about how he became the biggest magician in the Ozarks, our interview with Taylor Reed. Taylor Reed, welcome to Talk for Two. How are you today, sir?
Very good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
All right. You are performing at the Jim Stafford Theater very, very soon. When do you open?
We're opening the show on October the 9th, and it'll be a 2 o'clock afternoon show on Fridays and Saturdays for the rest of the season.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, how'd you come to meet the people that operate the Stafford Theater? That's just such a cool pairing, you and Jim, the two shows in that space. How'd that come to be?
Well, actually, it's a little bit of a long-coming deal. I've been good friends with Jim Stafford for about 10 years now. When I moved out to Branson, we became good buddies because Jim Stafford's a real big fan of magic. Mm-hmm. He's always done a lot of trickery in his shows over the years with gimmicks and different, magic effects with the comedy and his music. So we're buddies already. And then they had some new owners buy the theater, I want to say about a year ago. Mm-hmm. I guess you're familiar with the new ownership of the place over there.
Yes, Maria's group too.
I had a great meeting with one of the owners about a year ago. I tried to set up the meeting, just letting him know that I was kind of open and available to possibly be one of his acts. And because I've always really liked that theater, the location's really awesome, right on the main strip and everything. So
I love it. Yeah.
It actually started about a year ago, actually, that we started kind of negotiating and talking. And at the time, he was getting ready to bring Jim in, and they were remodeling the theater, and a lot of things were going on. So then something didn't work out. I think they had some other shows going on, a few things, but they had me kind of in the back of their mind, and I kept thinking about them and kept getting other offers around town. And finally, I was getting close to taking some other offers, and I went ahead and talked to this owner guy. There's a number of guys that are involved, but mm-hmm. I kind of told him one last time that I'm getting ready to go over here with these guys. What do you think? And he's like, no, I want you over here with us. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Because I would rather be there anyway. So that's kind of how that all came together.
That's wonderful.
And we'll be doing a lot more shows next season. We'll be doing a minimum of 4 shows a week, pretty much all next year. And the good news is this is kind of a little bit of a rough time of the year. Generally in the winter months of Branson, it's kind of slower. Mm-hmm. Or the shows that are doing really well have already been kind of pre-booked with buses. So we're really not counting on like huge crowds just right off the bat. We're kind of they were wanting to kind of do this to kind of get the word back out to the ticket brokers and fans and stuff that my show is back at a new venue and all. So yeah, kind of setting up for mainly for next season to kind of get it, up and running.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So now we're going to switch gears. And as you know, this is a podcast listened to by a lot of other magicians and other performers. So we always like to delve into the story. How did you get started in magic?
Well, it's probably a common story that you hear from a lot of magicians, actually. I think a lot of us magicians have kind of a common story, and that's where you hear magicians talk about the magic kit, when they were a child or whatever, and that's truly kind of what happened to me. I was 4 years old, growing up in a little town in Texas, about 50 miles south of Houston, Texas, going toward the ocean down there. It's a little town called Lake Jackson. There's a little town called Clute, Texas, Angleton, Freeport. It's a bunch of little small towns put together, and that's where I was born and raised down in that area. And I was 4 years old, Christmas Day, magic kit under Christmas tree,
Nice.
And the rest is history.
Oh, that's wonderful.
When I picked up the magic kit, it was pretty much like a laser beam to the heart, so to speak. It was really life-changing for me. Mm-hmm. And I never veered from it. I mean, kids always get items and skateboards, bicycles, and beyond, and sometimes they get off into a certain hobby or something, but I just knew that was it,
That's
just
wonderful.
kind of like right off the bat, first love type of thing is magic. So, yeah.
What made you, as you got older and you got to understand your passion for it, why do you love magic so much?
Well, it's hard to explain, actually. It's when I was a kid, I was very, very, very shy, and my parents kind of liked the fact that I was actually so shy as a child that I didn't even want to read in front of other people. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the case. I think a lot of magicians have some common denominators that, maybe not just magicians, but actors or different, entertainer type people. They may be extremely shy in some ways, but then when they get to do something like magic or ice skating or whatever they're into, then maybe it will make them not so shy because they have maybe like a shield. They feel like that's their shield or something, And I know my family really enjoyed the fact that I was into it because it made me not be so shy as a child, and open up a bit. But I don't know. It starts when you're a kid and you do something like a little magic trick, and then people really think you're special because you're doing something that they can't do. So that's kind of that's interesting as a child, for someone to feel like that it's special, that, wow, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And I think that, magicians of all ages really live for one thing, and truly that is, kind of applause, like to get, people enjoy it and you live for that. But also the main thing is just how did you do it? How do you do that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. That's the payoff. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's wonderful. Now, your show is a combination of comedy, magic, and illusion. I mean, and it's wonderful to see. I've been watching videos on YouTube all day. It's really exciting to see what you do. What's one? I mean, illusionists, and I'm sorry to say this because I love illusions, and so I'm just kind of relaying. It's not my opinion at all. Illusionists are kind of stigmatized, I think, sometimes. It's just the guys that stand there and gesture while the pretty girls do all the work. What's the hardest thing for you as an illusionist to do while you're on stage?
Well, I don't know if any of it is hard at this point because, you work so hard. So you work so long and hard at it that it becomes pretty simple.
Yeah.
I think I'm also a drummer and a singer, which is something I no longer do. I've kind of retired that. But they say, and I don't know if this is completely true, but I know this when I was playing drums a lot, I could play drums with one hand and twirl the drumsticks and drink a Coke with the other hand and just never miss a beat. I had other drummers come watch me play all over Vegas. And they say, man, you make it look so simple. It's almost like a drum machine back there. We don't know how you're doing it. You're drinking a Coke over here, you're twirling, you're flipping, you're just, And so I think if you become really good at something, it looks simple to the audience. I think that's part of the art of being really good at something is it looks very easy, but in reality, it's very, very hard. But, the hardest things in my show, even though they're not as hard anymore, would be like what I call card manipulation, mm-hmm. which is something that not every magician knows how to do because it's more sleight of hand. And you make cards appear out of the air, manipulating them with your palms and your hands and all. And that's pretty skillful and kind of hard to do. I've done it so long now that it's kind of second hat. It's pretty. It's not so hard for me anymore. But but it is difficult if you don't know how to do it. You know, most magicians can't do it unless they're, sleight of hand guys. And what makes my show so nerving for me as the artist is the fact that I do a lot of illusions, like a lot of people, but I also add a lot of really complicated things in between them. So, like if I'm doing a small number in front of the curtain, which is maybe something like something lighthearted, even comedy.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's pretty skillful. It's more skillful type magic than even the big stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what'll kind of drive you nuts in the head before the show, because we have like 30 illusions, I think, in this show, and about 10 or 12 of the bits are these little intricate pieces. Mm-hmm. And sometimes one little routine that lasts 3 minutes may have 7 or 8 different pieces to it, from rubber bands and beyond, magnets or whatever, just silks and this and that and a deck of cards and a rubber band and a piece of Velcro. And there's all these little details that just really drive a guy nuts. And the older I get, I kind of feel a little bit more attention deficit, so to speak. I kind of feel you kind of get whacked out in the head when you walk backstage and you see 30 illusions and all these little pieces laying everywhere. It kind of freaks your mind out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mainly if you're kind of a neat freak about how everything's got to be a certain place. Because when you get out on stage as the artist, you really have to have a good team of stagehands and dancers. So basically, when you turn around, that the prop is there, and these little things that the audience doesn't know about. But for example, the big illusions generally they have to lock all the casters, so they have to step on them with these little latches and lock them. And so when I go to do an effect, the prop doesn't fall over or something with me in it or a girl, and there's all these little things that are going on. And so you have to put a lot of trust in your people that work for you,
And you do, and you have to trust the people. I know I do a lot of shows just in different places, sometimes theaters, sometimes smaller clubs, but they'll have some kind of stagehand there. I don't mind the person knowing how a trick is done if it helps the illusion, because at that point you're not protecting a secret from a layperson. You're working together to create an experience for theater. So when you're working with your team, I mean, do you have what Penn and Teller calls the sort of director of deception? Do you have somebody that's not you, that's in charge of all of the effects and all of their secrets and the setup and working that so that you can concentrate on performance?
Well, actually, I have a few people involved in my show. Like, for example, I have a lighting director, and then I have a musical director, and then I have a choreographer that does the choreography and stuff. And so they all kind of have some leadership type positions, but I'm pretty hands-on when it comes to producing the show. And also, I don't know if a lot of people know about this about me and others don't, but I kind of like the fan type people that come watch the show. They don't know this part of me. They just see the magic show with the magician guy from Texas, I'm originally from Texas, lived in Vegas for a while now. I'm out here, but they just enjoy the guy they're watching, but they don't know the other part of my act, or my talent is that I design, build, consult, coach, and develop magic illusions for magicians around the world. Yeah. I create a lot of original effects, and I also have one of the world's largest magic companies where I sell used magic illusions to magicians around the world as well. Mm-hmm. And the name of that company is called usemagicillusions.com. It's just kind of another whole world of magic. But basically, I've already got a lot of other elements to my, kind of like as a producer. So therefore, because I do all that for so many other people, I prefer to do it all myself for my own show. Now, I do have people occasionally come set and watch things and video things and give opinions and stuff, but I pretty much try to do most of that myself, if at all possible, the producing of it.
So do you have a favorite illusion of yours that you've built or something that's more dear to your heart?
One of my favorites is kind of like my original effect. I really like I came up with an appearing motorcycle.
Yes.
It's so tough. It's so tough out there in this world that we're in, because I'm good friends with all the stars of magic, like Copperfield and Chris Angel and Lance Burton, and I kind of grew up around all these guys, and they're really awesome people, and they're my buddies. We talk a lot, on the phone and stuff. But the hardest part about the new world of magic that we're in, and I started as a child, but I came up with a really new version of making a motorcycle appear. I mean, it's pretty cool to magicians, because it can be done completely see-through and surrounded. Like, you could do it literally in a Walmart parking lot with the sun shining. You could walk around with a camera and kind of do street magic type of thing, and then a girl appears on a bike. But the sad part is, for us magicians, is that everything's kind of already been done. So, like, for an example, Doug Hennon, which was one of my idols as a child, he's since passed away. He was kind of a hippie style magician. I'm sure you remember Doug.
I loved him. I have the magic show on DVD. Yeah, he was great.
Absolutely. He was an awesome guy. He had his own little deal, the overalls and the long hair and kind of the peace and love, colorful, happy guy. He's a really cool guy. But he, even back in his day, he was doing motorcycles of sorts. Copperfield's done motorcycles and stuff of sorts. Sigfried, everybody's kind of done variations of things. And they were even doing, motorcycles 100 years ago, even when they looked like bicycles with the motor. So it's so hard to do something that someone would consider new. Like, I came up with this new occurring bike, which in the world of magic, magicians know it's very special. It's different. But the lay public would be like, oh, yeah, we saw David do that 25, 30 years ago. And it's like, well, you didn't see this. You saw something it was a motorcycle. That was the only thing that was the same,
And it's interesting, because it's you're right. It's a different approach to something that people have seen, and if only there was a way to get lay people to appreciate that. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story here. I'm a ventriloquist, and sometimes the debate rages about who did what, or what bit, or what kind of character can you do, and the people will get really upset. But no, it's a different approach to something that somebody's already done. So, and magic is a better, it's more ambiguous with events, but with magic, it's a bit more crystal clear. That version of the illusion, you can't see through it, so it's okay that you're different enough than, So originality is becoming such a hairy subject.
Yeah. I know, and fortunately for me, I was able to do the appearing motorcycle at America's Got Talent. Yeah. Which that's an interesting TV show, as we all know. Everybody kind of like does it for different reasons. You know, I mean, artists a lot of times is doing it for the exposure, and then the TV show is looking to create a TV show. So they got to have all different kind of levels of performers on that show, and and a lot of the professional magician friends of mine it's so funny, because some people say, I'd never do that show. And then other people that are kind of like doing really big things are like, no, I would totally do that show. And so everybody's had a different taste and a different experience about America's Got Talent. But, honestly, I wouldn't take it. I would do it again, basically, is what I'm getting at. It's like, it definitely helped my career. Because you get, more exposure. The more exposure you get, obviously, the more money you can make, and the more people want to see you, and it's a bigger day.
Well,
I was able to,
Well, you have to go in accepting the fact that it's not a talent show. It's a show about a talent show. And we were talking about that earlier. It's the talent show is Penn and Teller Fool Us. I mean, they're there to give class acts a chance. Yeah. America's Got Talent is there to give class acts the chance to be judged by America. It's very different.
Yeah. And it's very reality as well, I mean, it's kind of like a reality show. But, there's so many different levels. There's all, they look for the bad acts. They look for the good acts. They look for all, they're creating a TV show. But no, it was a beautiful thing for me, though. I have a good friend in Vegas named Nathan Burton, which is a magician as well. He's a great guy. And And he really took, he took his, they call it the 15 minutes or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the standard thing, right? Took you 15 minutes and ran over. He took his time. He really, really has pushed it as far as a guy can push it. He was able to, take that little run and have it spin into other things as well. But yeah, you can really. I have a lot of students, so to speak. Now that we have Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, I have magicians from around the world. Because I have the usemagic.com thing. I'm a consultant, a coach, a creator. I do so much for other magicians. So I'm not just the magic guy in Branson. I constantly helping other magicians, and the young guys are always saying, how can I go from where I am now to where you are?
Mm-hmm.
Or how can I go from where I am now to where I want to be, basically. And I'm constantly trying to give good advice to these kids and all. And, the biggest problem in the world of magic, it seems like, is that they're like, we don't have enough money. Nobody ever has enough money because the lay public, they don't realize how much money it costs to put on a magic show. Generally every 3 minutes is 10 grand.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be 30 grand, like the touring motorcycle, $30,000.
Wow.
And it took me a year and a half to develop it. It was really complicated.
Well, it's the chicken and the egg situation. It's you can't do a magic show without them, especially a large magic show like an illusion show, without the money to get the venue and have the props. But you can't have the props without the money. And how do you get the money? By doing a show.
Absolutely.
So,
and the old saying is just like this: any kind of performer, they need a really good promo video to get a gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the old saying is you can't get a good gig without a video, but you can't get a good video without a good gig.
Right.
Because a lot of people go rent like a high school stage and try to fake it, but it's not going to be a good video.
Yeah.
And you don't really get those good videos until you're working. And by the time you're really a working pro, you don't even need a video or a business card, really. The old saying, like, where's your business? I don't need a card. I got a gig. It's just a joke, but I mean, kind of the way it is. And there's so many double-edged swords here with this whole magic world, but it's been a love of mine, though, forever. And
so what's one thing you tell those young magicians when they ask you for advice?
Well, I tell them what they don't want to hear, basically.
Well, that's good.
And most of these young kids won't listen to me. They'll argue with me, and I say, guys, I've given you 20 minutes, and I'm going to move on here. I'm just being a gentleman, Because for me to stop and, have private message with someone for 20 minutes, it's I think, overly nice, if you're trying to give someone good advice. Mainly, a lot of people from other countries, they're asking. And,
oh, yeah.
And I'm going to write books on this stuff in the future. But I generally tell people that, let's just say most magicians are birthday party magicians or wedding type magicians when they start off, or McDonald's birthday. You always start small and you start to build.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, you're probably not ever going to earn the money to be where you want to be. You can't go from McDonald's to Rockstar without hundreds of thousands of bucks or $1 million bucks. Just a lot more money than you could make being a McDonald's birthday party magic guy.
Yeah.
Or the wedding party guy. So they say, what do I do? And I say, honestly, you have to get a 5 to 7 year plan. And of course, this is when they stop listening because they don't want to hear the truth.
Wonderful.
What's the old saying? You can't handle the truth, right? What's the old saying of Jack Nicholson? But the truth is I'll say, go get a job that pays commission, like a really good job, like maybe a real estate gig or selling cars or suits or something that's going to make you commission money, a lot, So therefore, the harder you work, the more money you're going to make, right?
Yeah.
And don't get in a hurry. Go, this is going to take me probably 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then go really focus hard on that job 24/7, and try to be passionate about it because it's going to make you essentially more money than what you could do doing your birthday parties. You're never going to make the kind of money that you could make selling cars or whatever faster, right?
Yeah.
But don't lose your love and your focus. So still do 5 or 10 shows a year as you're growing this thing, and then start making big money and buying bigger toys.
Yeah.
And then when you look up 7 years later, the dream will be there more than likely. And some people, it's a good challenge because some people don't have they don't love magic enough. to go through all that. Like if they went and got a job selling cars, they'd probably decide they really didn't like magic that much anyway, and they're enjoying the good life of selling their cars or whatever, you know, at a car lot. And then the guys that really truly love it would basically do it for free. You know, I started off doing magic because I loved under the Christmas tree, right? And you know, Lance Burton, Copperfield, most of those guys, they didn't start off doing it thinking about money.
Right.
They started off doing it because they were just so wrapped up in it and kind of obsessed with magic. Basically, they just loved it. You know, like the other people love it. You know, whatever people are into, baseball or whatever. Right. But there comes the point where you have to think of it as a job. You know. But yeah, I try to give these guys, these young guys anyhow, I try to give them good advice, and I noticed that most of them, as I'm telling them that, they start saying, where can I get some good tricks, and where can I buy good magic books to learn, and where can I work? And I'm like, okay, well, I guess you just missed everything I just told you.
Yeah.
You know, they're just not listening, you know.
Well, they're scared. They can't see the bigger picture. It's frightening. It's a frightening reality to be up against.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, and Branson, man, I tell you, Branson, Missouri is a great place to be in some ways. You know, I've got a wife and children here. It's a wonderful place to raise a family because it's, you know, knock on wood, gang violence and all that stuff's not around here. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty laid-back, casual town, and it's beautiful, the scenery.
Yeah.
But there's approximately 150 shows here, maybe 50. I don't know exactly, but I think there's 50 theaters, maybe 60.
Yeah.
And every theater's kind of gone to somewhere between 3 and 5 shows a day type of thing.
Yeah, that's
somewhere around.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Approximately 150 shows here. I lived in Vegas for 15 years, and I'm not even sure they have as many shows as Branson. And it's kind of ridiculous. The amount of shows here is vicious. I mean, I love Branson and I love all the performers, but it becomes tough when the competition is hardcore. Well, and it's just, you know, not magic, but just shows, period.
Yeah.
Get 150 shows, it's going to be hard on everybody. Yeah. Everybody's going to make a little less, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting to me because you may not know this, but I know my listeners have heard me say this so many times. I kind of grew up on the Branson model, the '90s Branson model of one theater, one or two shows. As the especially with the economy kind of doing the thing that it did, I'm noticing an uptick in Branson. Thank God. The number of visitors to Branson went down, but the number of shows went up. Very weird.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know how much I want to say on this show, but I have opinions of all this. I think there's, and I know this to be true in the magic world anyway. I'll just try to say this magically. Okay, I lived in Vegas for 15 years. I love Vegas, probably better than any city on earth. However, I did just drive out of there one day and drove the other direction. Yeah. And a lot of my friends thought, well, where did Taylor just go? Because things were just starting to happen for me, and I just drove off, right?
Yeah.
And I left Vegas because, you know, like I say, I've been friends with all the stars of magic since I was a kid, you know, from Stephen Roy to Lance to Melinda to Copperfield, now years later, Chris Angel, and Penn and Teller. You know, I know all those guys. And I used to go basically watch all my friends do what they do, you know, in Copperfield, and I'd go talk to them, and I was a creative guy with blueprints, and I was always working with Carrot Top, the comedian, as a consultant and creator, but basically I was helping other people kind of live their dreams, or I was just going and being their friend and watching them live their dreams, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel like that I was living my dream exactly. I thought, you know, I want to be like Copperfield, where I have a 2-hour show of my own, or I want to be like a Carrot Top that has my own thing going on.
Yeah.
And in Vegas, I never really had it going on like I wanted. You know, I would do a 12 or 15-minute act occasionally in the production shows, but being a specialty act really wasn't my dream, my goal in life. You know, I wanted to do my own, kind of like a full evening show type of thing. So I just left and went back to Texas for 5 years, and I worked on kind of like a big dream, a big project working on, and I really didn't know at the time where I was headed. You know, I knew for sure, kind of like building Noah's Ark. I didn't know when the water was going to come, but I knew that I was going somewhere with this crazy magic show.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be in a tourist town. That's all I truly knew. And I knew it wasn't going to be in Vegas because I didn't want to go back to Vegas. I thought, I want to go to Vegas. I'll fly there for the weekend. I still love Vegas. All my friends are there.
Yeah, I love it
But
too.
however, all of my friends are now looking at me, and now they get it. It's like, wow, because I left Vegas 15 years ago, and when I left, there's some big name magicians even I remember that, and I don't want to say all their names on this thing, but they're like, why did Taylor just leave? Because at the time I had just ordered like 15 illusions and about 20 or 30 flight cases with a company in town that went. So it looked like I was about to take off. And then I literally loaded up trucks and left town. And they're like, whoa, what happened? And so I was working on a goal. I really didn't know where I was headed yet as far as what tourist town I'd end up in. I knew for sure as a businessman with a show, you have to go where the people are, And I really did not want to be in Branson either, believe it or not, because there was another magician that had been out here for 20 years, and he was already on top of the charts out here. And I thought, well, I don't want to go there because he's already there. He was already kind of the secret Roy of this town. And I thought, why do I want to go there? Because they've already got the big dog magic out there, and I'm just going to be lesser than. So I really didn't want to go to Branson. Mm-hmm. And we almost ended up in Hot Springs, Arkansas, of all places.
Wow.
And we all but bought a place, and there's some reasons why it didn't work out. Construction of the building, they were going to tear it, do some remodeling, and it wasn't, So we ended up not going there, and it was a little bit depressing. So my manager got me a gig in Branson, and I'm like, wow, didn't want to be in Branson. But we ended up here, and we actually kind of came in with a good attitude and made the best of it. And I thought, well, instead of being the big fish in the small pond, there's already a big magic guy here, and I'm just going to have to work hard. And so I worked hard for 10 years and eventually became bigger than the other guy.
Yes.
Yes.
And
that was kind of exciting. It was nothing personal. It was just, business people want to be the best they can be,
And
at least I do.
It's
don't know.
People that don't work in the commercial world, artists that don't work in the commercial world, I find, and tend not to have that competitive nature in them. I don't think it's business. I think it's a competitive nature that drives, and a business acumen drives it. But it's wonderful to see. Well, Taylor, I want to wrap this up here. I got to ask you the last question I like to ask all my guests. What do you want to see from magicians learning the art today, other than what we talked about having their plan? Creatively, what do you want to see from the youngsters?
Today?
Yes.
Well, I still think it's very important for magicians to entertain the audience, And I know that sounds very simple, but I think that a lot of the young magicians of today forget at the end of the day that this is not just magic tricks, because magic tricks mean nothing. Magic tricks mean absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. Just like a piano means nothing, right? And you could place a grand piano in your living room, and it really means nothing other than it's beautiful. But who can play it? You either know how to play it or you don't, right?
Yes.
And so I think that for the youngsters of today that are trying to become magicians, that they need to remember that this is still entertainment, first and foremost, that we're here to entertain an audience. And if they don't laugh and they don't cry and they don't want to hug you and all the different levels, then it's not working, And a lot of these kids just think about their tricks and they go, wow, that's, And so I would always ask the young guys that are getting started off to think about entertaining them who's in front of you, and try to be in the moment, look at them, love them, look them right in the eye and really be in the moment because, I think, that's why some of the young people need some coaching, because they don't really know these things, I think,
Absolutely. And
I wish I would have had a coach. It would have saved a lot of time.
Yeah. And well, look at what you did even without a coach. It's incredible. I'm excited to see what you do at the Jim Stafford Theater. I think you'll surprise even yourself, even with the goals you've set. I think you're going to do incredibly, incredibly well. So I look forward to see it, and hopefully I'll get down there to see you. Thank you so much, Taylor. I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for having me on the show anytime.
Thank you, Taylor. Like I said at the end of our interview, once again, I just want to tell you, I wish you all the success in the world in your new home at Stafford's, and hopefully I'll get out there to see you soon. I mean it. I love Branson, okay? That's it for us this week. Next week, it begins. Who will be our 100th guest? Stay tuned to social media and our website to find out later this week more about Week of 100. Now, here's a hint about the 100th guest. We get back to our roots. In the meantime, head over to talk4spellout2.com for even more Talk for Two. Check out some of the awesome stuff we have for you in the Talk shop. We are now shipping our new DVD, Ventriloquism for Comedy Clubs. And if you want to work for comedy clubs as an event, get this. Plus, we are taking orders for our very first official podcast t-shirt. A thank you to our season sponsors, the Tangent Bound Network, and to our season entertainment sponsor, Axtel Expressions. We talk about them at the top, and I hope you'll go check out their sites. You can find all you need to know about Talk for Two by going to our website, talk4spellout2.com. Reach out by emailing talk4twocast, that's FORTWOCAST, at gmail.com. And find our group or like us on Facebook by searching for Talk for Two. Tweet us and about us using @ and hashtag Talk4Two. Signing off for Talk for Two, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding everyone out there to keep talking for two.
You can hear more show business interviews with the stars at talk4two.com, where you'll also find one-of-a-kind products to improve your own show. That's talk, the number 4, TWO.com.